The night I exposed the truth began like every other quiet evening in our house. Too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes your thoughts loud. The ceiling fan hummed above me, chopping the air into nervous pieces, while my phone lay face down on the bed, vibrating every few minutes with messages I wasn't ready to read. I already knew what they said. Lies don't need to be read twice. They repeat themselves in your head. For months, I had lived inside a version of reality carefully edited by the people I trusted most. Smiles had been used like curtains, kind words like locks. I was the only one standing outside the room where the truth lived, knocking politely while everyone else pretended not to hear me. Until that night, until something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, but with the quiet certainty of someone who has finally decided they will no longer beg to be believed. It started with a message I wasn't supposed to see. I had borrowed my father's laptop earlier that day to print a document. He had always been careless with passwords, too confident that no one would dare look into his digital life. A notification popped up in the corner of the screen, an email preview with my name in it. Not sent to me. About me. Curiosity is often blamed for destruction, but in truth, it's secrecy that builds the bomb. I clicked. By the time I finished reading, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the floor. It was a chain of emails, stretching back months, filled with decisions made about my life without my knowledge. Financial choices, family narratives rewritten, conversations where I was described as unstable, ungrateful, difficult. The worst part wasn't the lies themselves, it was how easily they had been told, how casually my character had been traded for convenience. I closed the laptop and stared at my reflection in the dark screen. For a moment, I didn't recognize the girl looking back. Her eyes were sharper, older. There was something dangerous there, not anger, exactly, but clarity. That was when I knew the truth wasn't just hidden. It was being actively buried. Dinner that night felt like a performance. My mother laughed too much. My sister avoided my eyes. My father spoke with the confidence of a man who believed he was in control of every narrative in the room. I chewed my food slowly, listening, storing every word like evidence. They spoke about plans that excluded me, futures that assumed my silence. They had already written my ending. After dinner, my phone buzzed again. This time, I read the message. It was from someone I hadn't heard from in years, an old family friend who had quietly disappeared after a disagreement that was never explained to me. The message was simple. I think you deserve to know the truth. Call me. I stepped outside into the cool night air before anyone could ask where I was going. The sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that threaten rain but never quite deliver. When I called, the voice on the other end sounded tired, but relieved. She told me everything. She told me about the meeting I wasn't invited to, about the money moved in my name, about the story my family had been telling others to justify their decisions. She told me how she had tried to defend me once, and how quickly she had been shut down. They needed a villain, she said quietly. And you were convenient. By the time the call ended, the night felt different. Thinner. Like the walls between truth and lies had weakened. I went back inside and stood in the hallway, listening to the sound of my family in the living room. Laughter. Comfort. The ease of people who believe they are safe. I realized then that exposing the truth wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my own name before it was completely erased. I walked into the room and asked a single question. Why didn't you tell me? The laughter stopped. My father looked up first, his expression shifting through surprise, irritation, and finally, something close to fear. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. My sister stared at the floor. I know about the emails, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I know about the money. I know about what you've been telling people about me. Silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Then my father did what he always did when confronted. He tried to control the story. You misunderstood, he said calmly. Things are more complicated than you realize. No, I replied. They're actually very simple. You lied, and you thought I wouldn't find out. That was the moment the room shifted. Defensiveness turned into accusations. They said I was overreacting, ungrateful, dramatic. They tried to drown the truth in old labels, hoping I would shrink back into the version of myself they could manage. But something had changed. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I took out my phone and placed it on the table. I recorded the call, I said. And I have copies of the emails. I've already sent them to the people you spoke to about me. I didn't add commentary. I just sent the truth. My mother gasped. My sister looked up at me, eyes wide. My father stood so suddenly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. You had no right, he said. I met his gaze. You lost the right the moment you decided my life was a secret you could rewrite. The argument that followed was loud, messy, and exhausting. But beneath the noise, something important was happening. The lies were collapsing under their own weight. Every excuse contradicted the last. Every attempt to shift blame revealed more of what they had tried to hide. Truth has a strange power. It doesn't need to shout. It just needs space. Eventually, the shouting stopped. Not because there was resolution, but because there was nothing left to deny. I went to my room and packed a bag. Not dramatically, just enough to leave. As I zipped it closed, I felt an unexpected calm. Exposure doesn't always bring justice, but it brings clarity. And clarity is freedom. Before I left, my sister came to my door. She didn't apologize. Not fully. But she said, I didn't think you'd ever stand up to him. There was something like respect in her voice. Something new. Outside, the first drops of rain finally fell. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew where I wasn't staying. The night air smelled like wet concrete and beginnings. As I walked away from the house, phone buzzing with messages from people who were finally hearing the real story, I understood something important. Exposing the truth doesn't make you powerful because others fall. It makes you powerful because you no longer have to carry their lies. That night didn't fix everything. Some relationships never recovered. Some people never admitted they were wrong.
But the story being told about me changed.
More importantly, the story I told myself changed too. I wasn't difficult. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't the problem. I was just the one who finally turned on the light. And once the truth is seen, it can never be unseen.